Hi friends, welcome back to another video. My name is Lindsay and this is my channel Lindsay Talks a Lot. Today's video is going to be a vlog style where I dip my toes into horror a little bit. So I was home alone for the weekend. My fiance was out of town and I thought, let's see if I could read a little bit of horror, possibly scare myself and have it be legit because I would be home alone. So I have watched a lot of horror movies. I've seen a lot of scary movies. I love anything creepy and scary. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. And movies have scared me, you know, paranormal, even like thrillers with intruders or you know, just violent people doing horrible things have scared me. But I've never really read anything that I can think of that has actually made me feel the same way. Books have made me feel a lot. Basically everything but fear. Or maybe like fear in the moment, but not leaving me feeling like unsettled and afraid to close my eyes at night. So I wanted to see if books could have the same effect as movies would for me. Initially, I thought I was going to pick books that relate to my situation. So something about like a woman being home alone and an intruder coming in, or some kind of like solo woman's journey. But I ended up deciding to just kind of get a variety of horror books to see if there was one niche that really stuck with me that I did or didn't like. So I have some Clive Barker. I've got a Stephen King, of course. I got a little book of horror short stories related to phobias. I ended up picking an audiobook to see if that would do the trick. And I did pick like more books than I ended up reading over the weekend. Unfortunately, I just didn't have the time to devour them all at once. But I do think I got a pretty good selection. This video was inspired by How to Train Your Gavin's kind of like haunted travel series. Obviously in this video I'm not going anywhere, but I thought I could bring the scares to me. Because a lot of times in his videos he has all the good intentions of reading, but then he ends up just exploring the scary place. Luckily my house does not have any significant history that I'm aware of. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. I've got some B-roll woven in here as well. And let me know what your favorite horror book or movie is. So I started reading a little bit last night, but I was pretty tired. I didn't feel like filming, so I just figured I'd update you guys today. I have finished one book and started another, and I just kind of wanted to take a little bit of a break and give you guys an update. So last night I started The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker. This is the story that inspired the Hellraiser movies. Now, prior to this, I had tried one Clive Barker. I think he's more known for short stories, but the book that I got was a full-length novel. It was called The Scarlet Gospel or something of that nature. I do remember it being like super grotesque and just gross, disturbing, and I had stopped reading it. This one though, this was like one of his first. He wrote it in 1986. And I believe it's where he kind of originated the idea of like the Cenobites, which are like in the Hellraiser movies, like the power forces that kind of drive all the actions in the movie. I'm sure you guys know Pinhead, like very, very famous, probably one of those famous characters. But anyway, this story, if you haven't seen the movie Hellraiser, I honestly, like, I have not seen any of the Hellraiser movies except for that new, I think it came out last year, the new one that Hulu produced, which I liked. It was definitely gory. I wouldn't say it was scary, but it was definitely gory. And that one had like the Cenobites in it, but the actual plot was not the same as this. But anyway, so this one follows our main character, Frank, and he has kind of lost any desire in this world, and he feels like he has kind of like piqued in all the pleasure that he can obtain from this world, whether it be like gambling, physical intimacy, breaking the law, whatever. And so he comes across this box, this puzzle, that if unlocked is supposed to bring him like the world's most ultimate pleasure. Like these powerful beings can give him pleasure beyond anything he ever imagined. And he gets it from this guy. He tells him like all the things he needs to prepare once he finally opens the box, and he can ask these all-powerful beings, these Cenobites, for pleasure. So he ends up unlocking the box and realizes very quickly that he has made a terrible mistake. For these Cenobites, pain is pleasure. And he kind of greedily agrees to have them gain him access to pleasure, and very soon regrets his decision, because they begin to torture him and defile him in very graphic ways. Frank has a brother, Rory, and Rory and his wife move into the house that Frank was living at. I think it was their mom's house or something like that. And Rory's wife, I cannot remember her name, starts to get weird vibes from one of the rooms in the house, which is the room that Frank like performed to this ceremony and awakened the Cenobites. And a decent amount happens in this short story. Frank tries to figure out a way to escape this hellhole that he's been sucked into. And, we get these descriptions of what Frank is going through in this world, but we also get descriptions of like the darkness and evil that these characters kind of pull themselves into. As far as like disturbing goes, I would probably give it a 4 to a 5 out of 5. I think it was if it was a little bit longer, the disturbing could have really stretched to its limits. As far as just general enjoyment goes, I probably would give it like a 3.5, because it's weird to enjoy something that's so graphic and, I don't want to say disgusting, but kind of disgusting. And then as far as horror goes, or like the scare factor, I'd probably only give it a 2 out of 5, because these characters, like the horrible things that happen to them are caused by their own greed and their own decisions. Now, I will say, last night when I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, I was a little bit scared that Pinhead was hiding in my toilet, but quickly was able to fall back asleep after that. But all in all, it was an enjoyable read. It's really weird to describe this as eloquent, but Clive Barker just writes very well. Like, he uses a lot of descriptive words. He doesn't repeat a lot of words in descriptions. Like, he just finds all these unique ways to describe things, and it makes you feel very eerie and disturbed. Not with just like the graphic nature of the content, but the depth in which he's able to describe things and put some intellect like into this type of work. So I enjoyed it. It definitely wasn't super scary. It's just more disturbing because of the body horror in here, essentially. I don't know that I would read more stuff like this, just because it's kind of hard to enjoy. Maybe towards like the Halloween months, or the fall Halloween season. What's also cool about this little version, it's kind of like a collector's edition, so it actually has some drawings of the Cenobites by Clive Barker, which are also disturbing and graphic and gross, but they're cool to look at. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the next. It's something that I have as an ebook. It's called Phobophobia. It is a collection of short stories that talk about phobias from A to Z. So each chapter is a phobia with a certain letter of the alphabet. So like the first story is aquaphobia, I think. It's like the fear of water. There's a fear of clowns, a fear of books, of reading, which I thought was interesting. I actually liked that story. There's a fear of the cold, of Jesus. There's a fear of religion. They have like they've covered it all. I'm about halfway through. I got to the M's. I am enjoying it. I would say I like some stories more than others, like No Surprise. I really like the Phrygophobia story, and I liked the Jesus phobia story, but not because it was scary, because I thought it was funny. Because this guy, he ends up dying and he gets sent to hell, and the demon that's like checking him in is like, well, I don't know why you're here, because he's not a sinner, you know, like he is a pious person or whatever. So he starts digging through his mind and he realizes that he's afraid of God and of Jesus. So his punishment in hell is to like outlive all these terrible memories that he has in church. I just thought it was funny. But like some of the stories go a little bit better in depth about the phobias themselves. I like the stories that, because based on the title or the word of the phobia, you can't always determine what exactly it is. So I like just reading the story and trying to figure out along the way what the actual fear is. I think some of them, the stories make more sense, like they're more attached to the phobia. Others are just a little more vague and they're not quite as enjoyable. I think the stories that kind of use the main character and find like a trigger to explore their phobia makes the story a little more enjoyable, instead of just throwing kind of generalizations of that phobia in the story. I thought it was interesting. I kind of looked into phobias themselves. So a phobia is considered a type of anxiety disorder, and it's an extreme fear of a thing, an event, a place that leads to like physical and mental distress. It can be an acute or chronic thing. Just reading up on it, like a lot of the times phobias that happen in kids are between age 5 and 9. In adults, when they're considered more of a chronic phobia, they don't arise until like the 20s. And there are also 3 main types of phobia. So there's what they call it, like an item specific, or it's called a simple phobia, where you're just afraid of like spiders, like you're afraid of an animal or an object, of an experience, like you're afraid of heights, or you're afraid to go on plane rides or train rides, things of those nature. And those are actually found to be more genetic or inherited in nature, which I thought was super interesting. And then social anxiety disorder is considered its own type of phobia. And then agoraphobia, or the fear of open spaces with no way to quickly exit, are its own types of phobias. So I thought that was super interesting. I wouldn't say so far that it's anything scary, but I don't know if it really could be scary if I don't possess those phobias myself. But it's an enjoyable read. It's kind of nice to just have these short stories broken up and to be able to take breaks and see the different individuals' styles of writing. Some of them are definitely better written than others. I wouldn't say myself I have actual phobias. I mean, I definitely have fears, but I'm curious to continue reading on. I'll definitely let you guys know of any other weird phobias that I learned about, or any other enjoyable stories. The weather is not really giving off scary, isolated vibes, but I'm kind of knocking out the shorter stories first, and then tonight I want to do a little bit more of an update. I'm going to try to stay up late, because you know everything is scarier in the dark, and we'll go from there. See you around. Hello again. It's late. Some time has passed since we've last spoke. I feel like I am looking like a character in a horror novel right now. It's like just past midnight. I've been reading for a little while, but your girl can't hang. I'm gonna kind of brush my teeth, get ready for bed, and then maybe read for a little bit more. I have started in on The Shining by Stephen King. This will be my first novel that I've read by him. I have seen many a movie inspired by his books: Pet Sematary, The Shining, Misery, but I've yet to read any of his novels for no particular reason. I don't think I really need to go into the plot of this. It's probably one of the most well-known horror novels, if not that, movies of all time. I am only like 100 pages in. I don't know if I just said that, but I'm liking it so far. I really do like his writing. I think he's set up kind of an interesting backstory. So, oops. You know, we have our main characters, the family Jack, his wife Wendy, and their son Danny. And Jack has recently been fired from his job as a professor in a university in Vermont, or like a private academy. And they've moved, and he's trying to get this job as a caretaker for a hotel during the winter months in Colorado. So the story starts out with him being interviewed. He gets into the specifics of like what he would be doing in this job, and the manager expresses some concerns because the last guy that was hired was a drunk. He ended up getting cabin fever and murdering his family, which is really freaky. But Jack is like, no, like, I'm an intelligent guy, my family's cool, we have a plan, we'll be good. And then we learn about Jack, some of the mistakes that he's made in his past. He's got a history with drinking and some anger management issues. Those have been resolved for now, but you know, some good foreshadowing as to some issues that may arise. And then we have Wendy, who comes from a divorced parenthood. Her mother blames her for their parents' divorce and like always knocks her down. So, you know, I guess it kind of makes sense that she would end up with a guy like Jack, or that she would be kind of passive. And then we have Danny. He's just this cute little boy who has some premonitions. He can see things. He can kind of see the future in a sense, or like he knows things that have happened that he would have no idea about, which is interesting. I don't really remember that from the movie, but I'm really liking it so far. I think it has a lot of potential to be really creepy. Where I'm at, they've just finally arrived at the Overlook Hotel, and it's like his first day. All the guests are checking out to leave for the season. And I have 500 pages to go, so there's plenty of room for spooky in here. But I'm really liking it so far, and it's making me want to watch the movie again because Jack Nicholson is just such a good actor. But this is good. I'm enjoying this. Hopefully it'll scare me a little bit. But anyway, good night. Again, friends. Next day, I'm about halfway through with The Shining by Stephen King, and I've got to say I am really loving it. It's definitely freaking me out, and I feel like this dread is building up inside of me, but I'm just dying to know like what else is going to happen in here. Obviously I know to some degree because I've seen the movie. I don't know how well they parallel together. And to be honest, from the movie, it's been a while since I've seen it. I feel like I really only remember like the classic scenes, you know, of Jack Nicholson losing his mind, and some of the atmospheric shots of the actual hotel. And, you know, I'm kind of wondering if having seen the movie is making this feel more eerie because I have those images in my mind already. You know, I feel like when I watch scary movies, I usually do get pretty frightened, and I guess I can't say that I've read many horror books, but to me it doesn't seem as scary if it's on page. But with this, it's a different story. So since we've had that introduction and the family has arrived at the hotel, We've kind of established a routine for them. We've seen kind of their like day-to-day intertwinings. We also start to learn into the history of the hotel and some of the tragic and sinister things that have happened here. We also see more insight into Jack's character. And to be honest, he's an asshole. He's, a former alcoholic. He has anger problems. And we kind of see this atmosphere change all the things that he worked on to become a better husband and a better father and a better person. In some of his old habits, not drinking, but just old habits and tendencies in general to come back. Like he keeps repeatedly wiping his lips, and his patience has definitely thinned. He also like starts to dig into the history of the hotel and almost like blackmails his friend and the manager of the hotel, because he's like, oh, I'm gonna write a book about all the horrible things that happened here, which is really rude to do because his friend has hooked him up with this job and given him a second chance, and he's like basically about to throw this all in their faces. So I just really don't like him as a character in general, and you kind of see him like slowly start to derail. Like he has these angry and dark thoughts in his mind. He hasn't done anything yet. They've been in the hotel maybe close to 3 months at this point. Like it hasn't hit Christmas yet. But, they've definitely spent some time here. And poor little Danny, their son, who kind of is I don't want to say psychic, but he can kind of see the future. He has this like imaginary friend that shows him things that may happen or will happen. And the things he's starting to show them are very dark and very scary related to this hotel. But I just love Danny as a character. Like he's such an intriguing kid. He's so smart for his age, and he's so brave. Like some of the things that he's seeing, and like he can actually see like some of the people that have died in this hotel. He can see like how they've died. He can see their dead bodies, which is very disturbing, very scary. If it was me, if this was happening to me, I would be terrified. I'd be crying my eyes out. I wouldn't be able to sleep, but he just takes it like a champ. And it's a really good book. I'm just really, really enjoying myself. It's a big one, but I kind of think it needs to be, because the slow pacing and this build to this happening and then this happening and then this happening, it just gives you this sense of dread. And you just know, I mean, like, of course I know what's gonna end up happening, but still, even with that knowledge in the back of my mind, I'm like, waiting to be scared. Like this book is freaking me out. It is scaring me a little bit. And I'm really surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised, but I'm surprised. And I feel like I'm gonna have some bad dreams tonight because of it. I think I'm gonna read through most of it, and then maybe I'll save the rest for like tonight, and see if it'll keep me up. But anyway, I just wanted to pop in, give you guys an update. If anything else crazy happens, I'll pop in. But otherwise, I'm just gonna keep reading. I might do a puzzle later, but we'll see. It's now much later. It's about 11:30 at night. Just wanted to pop in for a quick update. So I just finished the collection of short stories about phobias, phobophobia. All in all, it was an enjoying read. This is my first collection of short stories of any kind. As far as disturbing goes, in general, I'd probably give it a 2 out of 5. Some of the stories were definitely eerie, definitely creepy. Some of the writers took a little bit more artistic creativity with their stories. But for the most part, like, a lot of them were more straightforward and they were interesting to read, but they weren't super creepy or scary. As far as the scare level goes, I probably would also give it a 2 out of 5. There were a couple that actually really creeped me out, and those were the ones I kind of enjoyed the most. So the phrygophobia, there was a phobia about feathers. The name was super long and I'm not gonna butcher it. And then there was a phobia of witches, which was also super interesting and creepy. But all in all, like a 2 out of 5. I would say general enjoyment though would be maybe like a 3.5 out of 5. It was interesting to see the different levels of writing that people had and their own personal take on the stories. They have like author blurbs and everything that I might read about and maybe let you guys know, but I was just curious as to like what made each author choose that phobia and what direction they wanted to go in. But all in all, not a bad read. I've got about, I think, 80 pages left of The Shining. I'm gonna try to like get ready for bed and then finish it reading in bed. For some reason, my couches just lull you to sleep. They're just super comfortable, and even if you're not tired, you'll end up falling asleep. And I really want to finish it tonight, so I will hopefully update you guys a little bit later. You guys, I have done it. I have finally finished The Shining. Nearly 666 pages. No, oh my God, I'm possessed. Nearly 660 pages later, I have finished The Shining in all of its glory. My intention really was to finish it last night, but I didn't realize how much I still had left. I was only around like 580. And I was able to read maybe like 30 or more pages, but I was just too tired. So I ended up getting some rest, didn't have any crazy dreams, didn't wake up to anything spooky, which is good. And woke up this morning. I did start listening to The Exorcist or The Exorcism on audio, and I'm really liking that. I'm hoping to finish out this evening. I'll probably puzzle while I'm listening to that. But anyway, back to this. So I really enjoyed this. I do think it was a bit lengthy, and it did take me pretty much like all of the weekend to try to dig through this. I don't think it's something that's really meant to be read in like a 2 or 3 day span. I would have liked to have spread it out a little bit more over like a week, but you know, I really wanted to include it in this vlog, and when I bought it, I didn't realize how big it was. But totally worth the read. So, you know, where we last left off, I think I mentioned we kind of are building this crescendo of Jack slowly losing his mind, and the hotel is kind of like digging into all of its power to kind of fuel Jack and push him to like lose his mind, and to also scare Danny and Wendy. I don't know if she has the same name in the movie, but her name in here is actually Winifred, which I love, but has nothing to do with the book. So the last 100 pages or so, I would say, are really, really intense. You really get this feeling of dread building, and the final scenes in here, I really enjoyed. They felt very realistic. I was scared for them because I didn't know like how it was gonna end, truly. I thought it was really well done. I really don't think it needs to be this long, but this was written in the 1970s, which I'm pretty sure like back in the day, writers were paid like per word, so the bigger the book, the more you got paid. Although it kind of seems to be like Stephen King's thing to write big books. Like it is like 1,000 pages, so not that it wasn't enjoyable. I mean, it was a good read. I really enjoyed the background that he included in here, some of the subplots, and I really felt like I got into the minds of all these characters. As far as disturbing goes, I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 5, because a haunted location is creepy, and the verbiage in here sometimes was I wouldn't say disturbing, but it definitely was eerie. Like when Jack becomes this like insane, verbally abusive, and even the hotel, like when it's trying to ensnare all these people in its trap, it really like dig deeps to find all these like offensive and derogatory things to insult the main characters with. As far as scary goes, I probably would also give it a 3 out of 5. Because a haunted place is definitely scary in my opinion. Ghosts are scary. Someone you love losing their mind and try to kill you is pretty scary as well. But I think maybe if I never saw The Shining, I would feel a little more scared reading this. But not bad as far as scare goes. And then as far as enjoyment goes, general, I'm torn between a 4 and a 5 because I loved the ending. I loved the build up to this. I really enjoyed this story, but it just was really long. So I think maybe if I had spent more time reading it and didn't push through and really try to rapidly absorb everything in here, it probably would be more of a 5. But I'm going to sit on a little bit and maybe revisit it back in October. But that's all I've got for now, and I will update you later. Hello friends, welcome to my living room floor. I'm sitting on the floor because I'm trying to puzzle right now while listening to the audiobook of The Exorcist. And I thought I would just kind of pop in and update you guys. I'm a little over halfway through the audio right now. And I've got to say, this book is freaking me out. It's possible that's partially due to the fact that it is narrated. So you get the inflection of the voices, and you get the actual like depth of the words that the characters are saying. So maybe it's just the fact that I'm just not creative enough or imaginative enough when I read to really feel the depth of these scary situations. But either way, if you want something horror, if you want something scary and something to actually really freak you out, audio is probably the way to go, especially if the narrator is good. This guy that's narrating The Exorcist is doing a really good job. I have also seen the film, but it has been a long time, and I really only remember like during the book, like the original like 1980s film, like the girl when she's just grotesquely been taken over by this demon, and they've been like trying to exorcise her, and she's like vomiting and like turning her head around and just doing really, really dramatic things. But it's really freaky. Like it really unsettles me. Like so far on the disturbing scale, I'd probably give this like a 5 out of 5. I'm enjoying the plot itself. I like the progression of things. I like how we're like slowly starting to see this possession of this young girl, Regan, and how vigilantly her mom is fighting to figure out what's wrong with her and everything that she's doing to get her daughter back, essentially. I like all the secondary characters as well. It's definitely freaking me out. I feel like this is gonna give me like the least amount of sleep tonight, but I think it's a good way to end the vlog, is saving the scariest for last, I guess. But anyway, I will update you guys when I'm finished. And I definitely will not be finished with this puzzle, that's for sure. So the last time we spoke, I was about halfway through listening to The Exorcist. I've just finished it. It might be messed up to say that I loved it, but I loved it. As far as disturbing goes, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5. The descriptions in here, especially because it's a child that has been possessed, and the things the demon makes her say and do to others and herself is just something that you don't want to imagine. As far as scary goes, I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5. I think especially because I listened to it on audio. So you hear him actually use the tone of voice that is scary and is intimidating when like the demon has come forward and like is speaking through the child. And then, when the mom freaks out or someone gets into an argument, they use those voice acting skills to make it feel legitimate, which I think really helped add to it. And then as far as general enjoyment goes, I feel like I almost want to give it a 5. I just really, really liked it. Even though it was disturbing in nature, I just thought it was so well written. It was very interesting. So the last time we talked, I was like halfway through. And the story, starts out with just the introduction of Chris and her daughter Regan and her like Hollywood lifestyle, because she's an actress. And Regan starts playing with this Ouija board, and she has a friend, Captain Howdy, who's her ghost friend or whatever. And then she starts to exhibit these strange behaviors, like she stays up all night, or like her bed starts levitating, like really freaky things. And Chris tries to go through the medical route first, reaching out to a doctor, who then reaches out to a neurologist, who also reaches out to a psychiatrist, and they try to put her on medication. They try to do testing. They try to do research to look into the medical reasons and explanations that these things could be going on with her. And then it gets to a point where it's at an extreme level, and none of these interventions, like the sedating medications they're giving her, the techniques that they're using, nothing is making any difference. So I don't know if it's recommended by the doctors or Chris kind of stumbles upon that on her own, but she ends up reaching out to a priest who also happens to be medically educated. He has a degree and he's a psychiatrist, which I thought was really interesting because he also kind of goes through the same deductive reasoning. He looks into her paperwork. He really tries to find a medical diagnosis for her. And he's like, because she's like, can you do an exorcism on my daughter? And he's like, exorcism? That hasn't been done in like 400 years. And that's just not plausible. Like, nobody even knows how to do those anymore. And it has to be approved through the Catholic Church and yada, yada, yada. So I would say like a good third of the book involves this priest. I can't remember his name, Harris or something like that. And his methods and investigations into like what could be going on with this girl, when like in my mind I'm like, this chick is possessed, like she needs an exorcism ASAP, please. But I just feel like that added so much more depth to the story, to have this character who is fighting between his religious beliefs and his education as a medical professional. And things get to a point where he's like, this girl's really sick. Like, he is convinced himself that she finally has been possessed. This is not just some kind of crazy psychosis. And things from there progress pretty rapidly, from him being like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna be able to convince anybody that this girl is really possessed, which I found that angle really interesting. That he was really trying to find all this evidence to get a exorcism to be approved essentially by the Catholic Church. And then somehow he finds this priest. I don't know, maybe I just wasn't paying very good attention at this part. And they do the exorcism, and the actual exorcism is such a small portion of the book. But I think it works in that favor because it's very intense. They spend days and days trying to eradicate this demon from this young girl. And the ending is very shocking. It's very dramatic. It does have a resolution, but it was just so well done. It was so creepy and eerie, but entertaining, and it was very well written. I just thought it was just really great, and I would like to buy it and read it and see if I could feel kind of the same way. It was actually I think it was like a special anniversary edition, so the author actually was the one who narrated it, but he killed it. He did an amazing job. I'd be listening to it through my headphones mostly, and I'd be like jumping at certain parts because he really got me. But it was really well done, and I would love to check out more work by him. But all in all, I thought this was a pretty successful vlog. I would definitely like to do this in the future, especially in the fall time, or if I do any like exploring or go anywhere creepy. I think I would like to explore the horror genre in general just a little bit more. I do think though this is more of like a genre that has to be a mood read for me. Like, there are definitely points, especially reading The Shining, because that's such a long book, that I just felt like I wasn't really in the mood to be scared or just have some kind of book, because it's very specific. But I definitely want to invest more in the future. So I'll go ahead and do a quick wrap up and we'll go from there. So we've got The Shining by Stephen King. I'm not going to go over the plot. I talked about this way too much regardless, but I would say The Exorcist would be my favorite of the vlog. I would say The Shining is going to be my second favorite. I would put Phobophobia, the collection of short stories based on phobias, as my third. And then just because I don't think body horror is my cup of tea, I would put The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker as my fourth. I think I would also like to try maybe at some point reading versus watching and seeing which one would scare me more. But I would love to know like what your favorite horror stories are. I think growing up really like I would read Goosebumps and that would definitely scare me. Some Nancy Drew books were a little bit scary too when I was young. I used to be obsessed with Nancy Drew. But since then, you know, I really haven't read much horror in the sense of like a classic nature. Like I read a lot of thrillers and a lot of mysteries. I will mention a few that I have borrowed but just didn't have the chance to read. I got The Red Dragon, which is like the Hannibal Lecter books. I have seen that movie as well, but it's been a long time. But I wanted to give it a try. I also got Bird Box. I have not seen this movie, but it was such a like mega success. And the concept itself, I think, is really scary, like not being able to see and like risk losing your sense of violence and like trying to travel when you're blind, essentially, which some people have to live with, you know, as a basis. But I just thought that was super, super interesting. So I might just read this on its own and then just include it in like a wrap up or something. And then I also got The House Across the Lake by Riley Seeger. I've really been wanting to check him out. And I thought a story about like a lone woman or like a woman witnessing a relationship that is not like as good as it seems, domestic thriller-esque, might be a little creepy, especially because I was home alone at the time. But I'm gonna dig into this too, especially I rented it from the library, so I gotta finish it soon anyway. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. Let me know what you think, and let me know, I want to know what's your favorite or the movie that has scared you the most, and if you have read any horror. I would love to know what you've read and if you have any recommendations for me. But that's all. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.